We're inside Elliot's loft of May 2024. You think about it, that we just took the paper down for April. We're inside of May, a week away from Mother's Day. It's when Black Men Talk. We do our weekly conversation, and what I wanted to do with this start this is kind of basically get ahead of Mother's Day and kind of give the mothers flowers out today, just in case if we don't do a show next week, and if we do, we'll have some more flowers too. But Mr. DeMaurice, I wanted to start it there because Mama's Day is coming. And I remember a year ago, man, you sent me a text to my Happy Mother's Day, man. I was like, this cat ain't no good, man, to say something like that. He ain't no good. But realistically, man, I know your mother was a relative of mine. She was my aunt, so I know of the goodness of her as being a mother. I've seen it up close firsthand. And we were fortunate, man. We came up with society at a time when mothers wasn't real back then, man. They were real. They was dedicated. They was seriously about basically nurturing and tending to their family and that making sure their children had a foundation and kind of a mental concept too back then with a lot of mothers is they wanted you to be, I hate to use word better, but they wanted your life to excel what their life was. They wanted to put you in a position to where you could have done better, you could have prospered and proceeded. And a lot of that, when I look around now, there's lost, man. I had to, my mother passed. Ooh, I didn't realize how long ago it was, but I went to her site, her burial site, about a month ago, and I realized it's been about 19 years.
Mm.
And when I say I didn't realize it, I'm kind of happy because of that. Because of course, time goes on, but over those 19 years, man, I've carried a lot of great memories from her. Not sadness, not sorrow, a lot of great memories. So going to her site and looking at the date made me realize it's been 19 years. I wouldn't have thought it had been that long, but man, I just, from always on a daily basis, kind of run through something that she did, how she prepared, how she handled her family. And I think prior to her passing, I had a chance to really, throughout her life, tell her, but really share with her how grateful I was that God placed me with her to have her to be my mom. So, of course, want to say Happy Mother's Day to her, which extends for the whole year, but Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And I'm not, I talk and say how mothers were in the past. I'm not taking a shot at current day mothers. I'm just speaking of what I know is to be the truth. But being a mom is not easy. From the first time you realize you are pregnant and you got to carry this child for 9 months, your life changed, your body changed. There's so much that goes on. So that process, the start is not easy. Then once your child come out, you care for the rest of your life. So happy Mama's Day or Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, or the mothers to be. We respect and love what you do. Don't never let that be forgotten. Mr. Demetrius, good morning. We're doing a Mother's Day salute early.
Yeah. Good morning. I had a buddy who and some people that I know who lost their mom recently, and one of the things that you express to them is that it's a club you don't want to be a part of, but a club that eventually people are gonna have to kind of check in the membership too. But just expressing to them that the pain of losing a mom, especially around Mother's Day, you see people kind of celebrating their moms, and and you let people know that uh, who have mothers now to appreciate them because one day you'll become a member of that club. Um, it doesn't get easier, but you learn to live with it. You always have that pain of not having your mother around. But one of the things that you said that's very true is that you tend over the years to have. Um, I was fortunate to have, and you're fortunate to have some good memories. Some times where I know my mom was funny, but she wasn't intentionally funny, and so she would do things that were just hilarious. And it those memories kind of come back. Matter of fact, I was thinking of yesterday. I was watching a couple at the gym that I know, and so one of the members came in the door and said, "Oh, you're back," and it it automatically reminded me of like when my father would come in the door, my mom would say that, and my father would go, "Oh no, I'm not really here. It's just mirage or something like that, some funny exchange or something like that, between your parents and your mom. That it triggers that, and it triggers a happy memory of my mom would like state the obvious, and my father would make fun of it, and it was like she would walk into it every time. It was like a comedy routine, like the honeymooners or something that you see every time, and you laugh at it every time. And even in her, you know, her in another state, I don't really think of my mom as dead, gone, never to be seen again. It's just that she's in another state. She's in another level, and yeah, it's just I think of like fond memories. I think of a lot of lessons, a lot of things that you think that you're not listening, or moms think that your children aren't listening, but they're listening, and it soaks in a little bit later. It hits you a little bit later, like, oh, that's what she meant. Oh, I remember her saying this. So yeah, salute the mothers, the new moms, the moms that are here, and never take for granted, because this is your mom for a reason. There's some lessons that you need to learn. I know some people don't have really good relationships with their parents or their mothers, but learn to appreciate who they are, and what they are and what they can give you, as opposed to always knocking heads or thinking of negative things when it comes to your parent. It's always a lesson. It's always a lesson to learn, and they're here as guides, I believe. I know my mom was a guide, and I lost her very early, um, and I think she was in her 40s when she passed on, and it was some lessons that she taught, and I don't know about you, but I feel like um, I remind myself sometimes of my dad, but there are parts of me and things that I do that remind me. It's like, man, that's mom coming out. That's that DNA coming out. That's that heart that she had. That's that laugh that she had. That's that caring that she had. That you can't help but be like her, because you are her, and you are living, and she's living in you, and your parents are living in you, and so they can't help but to live on. You look at your children and you see some of the things that your mom or your other parent is, and you know that they're still living, they're still in there, they're still breathing, they're still vicariously, just not vicariously, that's the wrong word, but they're still in those genes and that DNA still coming through, and still their heart is beating through you. So when the last thing I'm gonna say is that during tough times, I know I get reminded that, okay, she would say this, so I gotta do this, or if I feel like I'm not strong enough in certain areas, I got a reminder of her strength and that where I come from, and it kind of gives me that boost to say, okay, let me put myself up and get this done, because she would have done this, or she would have given me this advice to do whatever I need to do to get past this particular stage. But yeah, shouts out to all the moms out there, all the moms to be, and all those folks who lost their mothers. It doesn't, that pain is always going to get there, but um, you'll be able to deal with it as you move on, and fonder memories. That you'll learn to appreciate those fond memories you had and those experiences you had with your mom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well stated. Well stated. Yeah, man. We can probably do, man, a year of shows, basically, man, talking about the goodness we got from our parents, man. It's probably still, I mean, my mothers, and it probably wouldn't be long enough. It just wouldn't be long enough to really kind of think about what they poured into us and how they help us fold in and mold to be the men that we are. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, and it never should be forgotten that your first true relationship is with your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Your first love is with your mom, especially for a man, a little boy. A lot of that comes from there, and sometimes when we grow older, We're looking for quietly and maybe unbeknown to us, we're looking for someone that's similar to the trace of our mother. We're looking for someone to kind of basically fill in what we have because it's hard to be raised by a woman, a mother, and then, especially if things were done well and you get older, not to want to feel that because she was the first one that made you feel good about yourself. She was the first one that made you feel loved, cared for. So it's hard not to grow older and kind of walk away from those things. But yeah, man, so much there. So much there, man. I love a lot of the things that you said. And I want to just piggyback on one thing that you said, man, because there are a lot of people out there as families that don't get along, man. And I understand, could have been some things that your mom may have done that not have been the right way. But sometimes people can't be better than who they are. And I love how you said, in spite of that, and so many words, what you said is, love them anyway. Find a way to love them because sometimes they only can give you the best who they are. They
Hmm.
may not have been the best, but still, you were placed with that woman, that mom for a reason, and understand that. And we can all pull back and find some errors and things that our parents did, but yeah, at the end of the day, they still are parents. They still are parents. I wanted to move into relationships, man. I was thinking about, we always kind of we haven't done it a lot in relationships lately. I talked about relationships a lot lately, but I wanted to kind of move back into it just a little bit and kind of look at the foundation of a relationship because I think a lot of times we get into relationships as men, women as well, but I'm going to speak to a men in sense, and sometimes we find ourselves there not knowing we're in one. Sometimes, I mean, let's just keep it, real. And sometimes we find ourselves there, in a sense, not prepared and understanding what relationships really are. And we flounder through it. We just kind of basically flounder through it and kind of hold. And I'm not saying we should have been told, but I do think as men, we should learn when we're in relationships to be better. We should learn how to basically adapt and improve. And I always look at it, if you have different relationships over your lifetime, within your lifetime, something from the relationship you're able to pull and understand, okay, I could have done this better. I could have applied myself. I could have what did I gain from this? It's just that I didn't spend time with this person and nothing came from it. How can I prepare myself for the next time to where I'm not going to make the same mistakes? And I think a lot of times we move from A to B to C to D, and the same errors we made in A, we're making it all the way down to F, where those errors should have been tended to by the time we got to B. So with that being said, relationship carries a foundation, realistically, of harmony, disharmony, and repair. And repair to me is one of the focal points. I don't think a lot of times we spend on repair, even within a relationship or outside a relationship. And within the body of the relationship, there's some elements. And these are the things that we kind of bang our head against that kind of basically allow us to have a healthy relationship, toxic relationship, or a crazy one in a sense. And those elements tend to be control, which basically is the power, closeness, which is care, and respect, recognition. And those are some elements that I perceive to be vital when you're inside of a relationship. So, in saying that, I don't think when we're in a relationship, we're not thinking, okay, what's the vital part of this? We run to love. Do I love her? Does she love me? And that's great. Don't get me wrong. Love is a feeling of, that makes you feel warm, makes you feel good. It's a part of the heart and it's part of the soul. I get that. But when you step out of the love part of it, there's some other elements that we should kind of focus on and start to pay attention to. So when I think of that, Mr. DeMaurice, I look at the percentages of each element, and I think they should all at different points kind of move into a certain high percentage. But if I asked you to give a percentage, just what you believe common relationships, what they battle with, you know, with the percentage of control, closeness, and respect, which one you think ranks the highest?
Hmm. I think I would say control at the beginning would probably rank the highest, because I truly think why men enter relationships is because the caveat is sex. We we're very visual. We see what we want, and it's almost like as men we play along to try to get sex. I think women want sex also, but it's more security. So we play this kind of kabuki dance with each other, trying to get what we want, and knowing what the other wants, we give a facade, or we give a side of, hey, I can offer you this in exchange for this. So I think it's more the high percentage at first is who can control the situation at first to get what they really want. Because the reason why we ask women out for dates is because and take them out to eat and kind of bend to their will, so to speak, bend to their control, is because we want something in exchange for that, and women want something in exchange for. Okay, I'm going out on this date. I want a security of a relationship. I think the big percentage at first is all about control. Now, after the parties get what they want, it could come to a higher percentage of respect or love or things of that sort when you get to know each other. But I think when it first starts off, it's about this kind of power and control. Who can control to get access to whatever they're trying to get out of the other person.
Yeah. What I'm gonna do for this conversation, I'm gonna try, and it's gonna be tough to do, but for this conversation, I'm trying to leave the word love out of it. Let's just take love, just kind of like, because we know it's a given, it's an obvious. So we're gonna kind of move that out the way. And yeah, I like hearing you say what men about basically what kind of brings us to the beginning. The intro is sex. I mean, that's the truth. Let's just say what it is. And I think at that point, men tend to kind of fall into, if this person is someone that I really want to spend some time with, want to really get to know, those things start to fall underneath. But in reality, a lot of times it is because of our visualization, and as us being men. Now, I look at that, and I think the percentage. I think you're dead on when you say control, but I think that's part of the problem because we're looking at it from the sexual point of control and trying to have that. She's looking at it in a sense, okay, if I'm going to be with him, what am I going to get out of this? How am
Hmm.
I going to, how am I going to benefit? How am I going to gain? What's in it for me realistically? And the control part, I don't think only stays there. I think when the relationship starts to grow, it becomes a big factor because there's not much of a compromise. One party, the man probably wants to feel more in control. And as we know, current day life, you have the feminine, non-feminine, whatever, where they battle control all day. And realistically, she's not really ready to rent or probably open to relenting control. And what probably happens sometimes with that control, where it tends to grow, it doesn't kind of basically, kind of stand down. It makes it hard to get to the closeness of care. It makes it hard to get there. And if you're not building that closeness of care, how you're building a relationship. And then from there, you talk about respect. As far as your recognition, we all want that respect. So a lot of times we'll fight for respect. That's part of the control because we all want to be respected. One dropped this into harmony because harmony is agreement in action, opinion, and feelings. Now, to me, when a relationship first start, when we first vibing, there's great harmony. There's harmony there because a lot of times the harmony is based on you're what's what I'm looking for, that you're not really, some of the parties may not be real with each other. So in other words, you're sending in your stunt double to basically do all the harmony part. And then your stunt double basically says, you know what, I'm tired of working, the other party shows up. So the harmony part to me, Mr. Maurice, is in the first part, but not shortly thereafter. It turns out to kind of get maybe a little disharmonious. But why does it tend to be more harmonious in the beginning throughout the entire relationship?
Yeah, you're trying to get what you want. So it's like, I like blueberries. I like blueberries too. And you're trying to get what you want. So you're agreeable. you say things that the other person want to hear. You know you trying to fit in. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to do any and everything to get on this path, not to mess this thing up, not to mess it up where you're not getting what you want. So you agree to a lot of stuff. You become a different person. You become the what did I say? It's almost like you become the representative. Like,
There it
okay,
is.
this is this is what my client likes, this is what my client doesn't like. I'm going to deal with this until I can get what I want, and see whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze, and whether or not I would really want to be with this person. And usually it's after sex is when you kind of decide, well, yeah, I want to hang around for a little while, or no, this was a mistake, and I want to back off a little bit. This is not my cup of tea. So you're trying to be agreeable in these situations, because in that harmony, because you don't want to disrupt what you're about to embark on, if it's something that you is really worthwhile. So you're not going to do or say or act in a way that's going to mess that up. So yeah, harmony is what you're doing, to say, okay, I'm close to getting what I want. And I'm not going to mess this up. I'm going to play along to get along, until I decide that, okay, this is really not for me. So harmony, yeah. I know I agree to a lot of stuff. I know I'm like, no, damn well I'm not going to do this, but yeah,
Good
I'll
gracious.
sit in there and do this and say this, and I like liver, and and
Oh,
then yeah, the way you cook it, and you say
oh
all
my.
these things to try to play along to get along, until you get to a point and go, you know what, I don't really like this, and usually that comes out when a fight or argument or a disagreement. Well, I never liked such and such anyway. I'm like, well, you told me such and such and such and such. No, it was that harmony, to each side trying to get what they want and trying to see what they can tolerate. And once sex is over, once intimacy is over, whether or not this is really worth me kind of giving in and to get what I want, or is this the person, or is this my match, or is this my person that I'm supposed to walk with?
It's interesting because as men, I'm going to focus on that in a sense, just kind of getting along. To me, I always looked at that, just my perspective. That's you wasting a lot of time, a lot of energy, and probably a lot of money.
Mm,
Because in reality, if you're faking, and I'm not knocking what people do, whatever, but just my thought. If I gotta, I always looked at it like this: if I gotta jump through those hoops to get that, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to jump through all the hoops in a sense, because it's like that's just not now. Because to me, that's where I think a lot of times the harmony part, like you said, after that happens and your first fight or whatever, there goes this harmony because you two don't really know each other. You really don't spend so much time acting. She's agreeing to stuff she probably don't like either. He's agreeing to stuff that he doesn't like. And then when you finally get to a point where things, it could be the sex or whatever, you get to a point where things kind of slow down. You look at each other and go like, I don't like that about her. She doesn't like that about me. Where in the beginning, if it was like to me, hey, I'm not jumping through that. I'm not doing it. If it takes that, you kind of see the person a little bit more. And then if they realize, just to me in my thinking, they realize, hey, no, he doesn't like that. He's not into that. Maybe they'll realize, you know what, he's not for me, and that's cool too. And that's cool too, to where they're given an opportunity to go, you know what, this ain't going to work. But I know as men, like you said, we are definitely more vision. We tend to run to that. But I think, pulling back, we can have less disharmony if we just kind of be more upfront. And this is what it is, sis. This is who I am. Bang. It's
You,
it's this is it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you know what it reminds me of? Remember the song by Bill Withers, um, where I forget the name of the song. Um, is it "Use Me" or
Yeah. I
where
know you're
he
talking
said
about.
his brother came to him and said,
Hmm.
you need to, that woman shouldn't be doing this thing to you. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes we overlook that because of how that person makes us feel, like in
Mm-hmm.
intimacy things. And Bill Withers saying in that song, "Brother, if you only knew."
And he knew. Yeah. Well, I remember that song. It's a
You be
popular
wishing you
song.
were in
You
my
know, in my
shoes.
shoe. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
So that
sir.
had nothing to do with, oh, Harmony. I know she's a rough customer, but brother, when
Well, let me
things are
ask.
right,
No, I
they're
get you. I
right.
get you that. I get you that. But that brings me to a question. Then that brings me to a question I definitely want to throw in. And this is one of the toughest questions for men, probably, realistically. Even when it's that right, are you disciplined with it?
Mm, yeah,
Because that's where I mean that song. Everyone, that song has a lot of truth to it. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, if you're not disciplined with that, look where it takes you. Look where it
yeah,
leads you. Yeah, man. Because at the end of the day, that's the thing that kind of where a lot of us get caught up in a sense because we're in situations where where the human body connects with another human body, and tells you there's sometimes where it's the perfect it's the perfect connection, but the two souls aren't right. So
right.
you spend more time rolling with that. There's no discipline, and then I'm just saying this is not even hypothetical. This happens sometimes. Now you bring kids into that situation.
Yeah, yep, yep.
You bring kids, and now they're in a situation where you two aren't really meshed because you just couldn't kind of walk away. I mean, that reminds me of the old country song, whatever you got to know when to fold and when kind of basically put your cards down and kind of walk away because that has to happen sometime. Because or you leave the party sometimes when the music is still playing. Like you go to the club and the club gonna close at 2. You decide
Yeah.
about 1:30, you're gonna duck on out because you ain't gotta stay there till whole time. And some folks gotta stay there until the club shuts down and moving the chairs and sweeping the floors. They still don't want to go home. So I that's the thing there. I'm gonna just pose that question to you because I think as men, even with the way we are visually and everything that we go through, at some point, when do we allow discipline to kind of basically kind of prevent our urge?
I think we got to get to the point where um, we got to move past the physical, and sometimes that's really hard to do as men because, like I said, when we start off, we want sex, we want intimacy, we want that's how we show our intimacy through sex. Sometimes it's not through words, not through other actions other than that intimacy, and so you got to get to a point where it's like, okay, do I let this control me or do I control it? Because I think some men get to a point where they feel like the other side is taking advantage of the situation. It could be a million people telling them, "Oh man, this person's taking advantage of you. You need to get out." But until you actually see it and feel it for yourself, and come to the realization that this person really doesn't care about me or care about me the way I thought they cared about me, and they're actually taking advantage of me, you're going to continue to go down that path to relinquish your control in that relationship and to do whatever that person wants you to do because they're locked in. They kind of know you like a book. They've read you already. But until you realize that, okay, this is not to my advantage, or it is not beneficial to me, and it's taking me so far away from who I am, and what I represent, you're going to continue to walk down that path. So sometimes you got to come to that, that moment of clarity, and many of us don't ever come to that moment of clarity. I think we all get there at some particular time, but some people don't come to that moment of clarity until it's too late.
Yeah, I agree. Are you loving this episode? You ever thought about creating your own episode? Like having your own podcast? What are you waiting for? Get started at podup.com. We're one of the sponsors of this podcast, and we'll love to someday sponsor yours. Starting as easy as creating an account at podup.com today. PodUp literally has everything you need to run a full professional show. PodUp has over 35 tools with AI integration to further help you succeed. Create a free account or get a paid account for 15% off with the code PODNAME15. So check out podup.com, or if you want a podcast that's done for you where you pay an agency to do all your website, social media, and editing work, check out podallies.com. Pod Allies is an agency run by folks that literally built the PodUp podcasting software. Get started with them at podallies.com. Get 15% off when you sign up today for PodUp or PodAllies with code PodName15. We can't wait to create with you and launch your podcast. Mr. Maurice, it's interesting because discipline, is a big part of it. And I'll go back to something else, man. I'm listening to you, something I think of the disharmony. And I think this part to me is a big part of disharmony, man. Because if you spend a lot of time in the beginning in the harmonious part of it, when you're in harmony and you're not really kind of being true to who you are, and she's not probably being true to who she is, the communication is not there, boss. And what happens when you can't communicate, when you can't communicate with someone, it tends to be, make any foundation start to basically have some potholes. Now, it's funny because you and I have known each other all our lives, man. And ironically, in knowing you the entire time, you and I, our communication has always been what it needs to be. Meaning that you're not afraid to say anything to me with thinking that, you know what, Mark is going to look at me a certain way. He's going to do this, what the case may be. Because I would believe in your heart of hearts, I only mean good for you. So therefore, it allows you to open up and communicate freely. Now, if you're with someone, let's say you and I, as far as we known each other, I was always trying to put on a front to you. I'm trying to sell you something that I'm not. I'm trying to act a certain way. You see my bad, my good, whatever the case may be, my mistakes, whatever it might have been. So if I'm always trying to basically offer something up to you that's not realistic, how can I flip that and communicate with you? And I think a lot of times in relationships, because of the we roll in the beginning and we're agreeing with this and that, and we're trying to get it to a certain point. So now we're trying to go long term. The foundation of communication is just not there. It's not there. And you find yourself saying some things to this person now, and they're overreacting to it. They're lost. They think you're picking on them. We're just speaking, simple truth. And I find that part right there, when I get to this harmony, plays a huge part. Your reaction to it, sir.
Yeah, and also you don't trust that person. That's very deep in relationships. The information, what you're offering this person, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to take advantage? Are they going to, um, um, use it in a way to hurt you? Because I always tell women, and that you got to be very careful when a man really opens up and talks to you about certain things, because if you decide at some later point to use it against him, you may never get that man to open up ever again, because now he knows that he can't trust you, and now he knows he can't communicate. I said this to my daughter a few weeks ago, because she was talking about she's married. She's talking about some stuff about, when they, that whenever she's ready to talk, her husband's not ready to talk. And I said, well, men and women are different, and they approach those conversations very differently. And I said, I asked her two questions, um, because she would, um, most women do this. They'll pick on a word or a certain phrase that you say, and they make that the argument or make that the discussion instead of what actually. I hear you clapping over there. What actually the subject is. And I said, and I was telling her, you say you're putting your feelings in the way, and that's where feelings shouldn't be in the way. I asked her two questions. I said, do you believe that he loves you? And she said, yeah, of course. I said, do you believe that he would do anything to hurt you? And she said, no. I said, so what you're dealing with is your feelings. And if you know that, you know in those conversations when he is ready to talk that he's not trying to hurt your feelings, or and that he loves you. Overall, he loves you. So why would you um, accuse him of saying things that will hurt you or injure you when you just answered those questions? Yes, he loves me, and no, he wouldn't do anything to hurt me. So get the feelings out the way, deal with the subject matter on the table, let him express himself. You express yourself. You can come back and deal with the feelings later or how that made you feel when so and so said this. But don't take it off the subject matter, because what will happen is that he's going to open up. You're going to shut it down, and then he's going to, get to a point where no, I can't talk to her about this because I know where it's not going to get solved. Then what you're doing, you're opening up the door for other people to step in and have that harmonious kind of conversation, build that
Ooh,
harmony, and then he may step out, or he may say, I can talk to other people about this, and I can't talk to you, and that shouldn't be, because you two are married. You two are supposed to be communicating. So when you shut that off and you just deal with the feelings and not deal with the facts, I said now you're going to open up doors that where he finds it somewhere else, and it may not be where you want him to find it. I said,
wow.
I'm a living testimony of that. I went through that. So I see where you're going at, and I know where you got it from. But look at the result of what you saw in
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
around you,
Mm.
and apply it to your life.
Yeah, you man. Whew. So much right there, boss. Which is true, because what happens is, realistically, when people do that, man, most of the time when men experience, women do that. When you're having a conversation and you're communicating with them, when they take a word that really has nothing to do with the major part of the topic, it's because, excuse me, they don't want to deal with what you're thinking about.
Hmm.
It hits home. They don't want to deal with it. So they rather distract you, derail you to go somewhere else. And here again, that's not communicating. And I love what you said to, which is really true and is vital. If you're with someone that cares about you and love you, why are they saying something intentionally to hurt you?
Hmm.
So if you remove the emotion part of it, listen to what we're saying, and deal with that conversation and communicate with it, there's growth there.
Hmm.
There's growth. A lot of times they don't grow because when you start, making it awkward and talking about this and running from it, he can't basically come to you and have a conversation. He can't communicate with you. And you're right. Sometimes someone else will basically pick up on that and come in on the outside. And I'm not saying is right, but excuse me, that person finds that person, that's an ear they can communicate with. They could be relaxed with and communicate. That's where that it may end there. I was thinking about this while you was talking. There's a guy that I worked with several years ago, and him and this young lady on the job thought about they wanted to date, and he said to her, "Let's do this." He said, "While we're getting to start to date, let's not tell anyone that we're dating
Hmm.
at work." Let's just kind of keep it discreet and let's date. And then he said, if we connect, let's we don't mind. I don't mind. So he spoke this to her. She agreed to it. Man, it wasn't about a week later. She went to some people on the job and started telling them. And then one of the person she went to was a pure blabbermouth. When I say blabbermouth, blabbermouth,
Blah, blah, blah.
blabbermouth. So when it got back to him, and she said, "Well, I told," he said, I thought we agreed." She said, "Yeah, but that's not."
But yeah.
He cut her off, and she couldn't understand it. And the blabbermouth was like, "I don't understand." I didn't even talk to the blabbermouth about it. But when he came to me, he was saying, "I understood what I understand what he was saying." Because what he's saying is that I don't really want everyone in our business and talking about us. Let's build something between you and I. And if it happens, then of course everyone can know. But in the meantime, we're working in a situation where people are gonna be running. I don't want to come to work and deal with that. And the ironic thing is she agrees to it in conversation.
Mm.
Now, Now, when she decides to go back and not, stand by what she agreed to, how do you think that made him feel?
Right.
I mean, realistically, how can he move forward with serious intentions with you when when you two can have a conversation, agree upon something, and then as soon as his back is turned, you go do whatever you please. And he's looked upon as being the mean one, but he's not. He's not. The man communicated his feelings, his thoughts, what he would like. And ironically, she couldn't see where he was trying to really go. He couldn't see. More happy to let people know and this and that, or the case may be. And it's I looked at it as being silly. So communication again, I think, it's underneath a lot of this. A lot. And if you're not communicating in the harmony stage, if you're not communicating, definitely going to be disharmony. What do you have? What do you have? And I see couples now that have been together for a long period of time, and they can't tell the partner that they're with they don't like a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
What type of? I mean, I'm like, it boggles the mind. You know, my so and so does this. How should I handle this? Why you gotta write somebody or call somebody, ask somebody else to deal with the person that you're dealing with?
You're right.
I don't get what that says to me. Y'all have no communication, none, none. You have no communication. If I gotta come to you, Mr. DeMaurice, to ask you, okay, my partner's doing X, Y, Z, man. What do you think I should do? Hell, first thing I should tell her, right? I mean, that's the first thing I should do. I mean, it's like, and if you
Yeah.
can't really have that conversation, I mean, what are you doing? Because to me, y'all playing house at that point. And there's a lot of married couples and a lot of relationships. That's what they're doing. They're playing house, meaning that it looks good, it looks nice. You're all giving off projection. You're all doing it. You're great, but y'all don't know each other from Adam and Eve. You don't know
Yeah.
each other. You
Yeah.
don't relate to each other. Don't communicate with each other.
But don't,
But
yeah,
yet,
don't listen to each other.
yeah, but yet you all been together. We've been together for all these years. So what? What? At the end of the
I
day,
I you ever have a situation like this happen to you? You're in a relationship, your significant other calls you, and they call you and it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" You say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm a little busy right now." And they just go right into the conversation they want to get into. You're saying, "I'm busy right now," it's not about you. It's about them. They're not even listening. That just went by them like a fastball.
you
And
say, I'm sorry to
they
cut you off, or you say, I don't want to really discuss that right now. Well,
right past you. Right
yes,
past you.
yeah.
It's like
It's
they're
like
not listening. They're not
no,
listening.
no, no, no. Let's face it. Listening is a big part of communication,
Yeah, because
a
I
huge part. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
because when you're talking to men, like I called my father yesterday, and I'm like, "Are you busy?" And he said, "No, I'm just watching this movie." And the immediate thing I said to him, I said, "Hey, do you want me to call you back?" And he's like, "No, no, no, no." I'm listening to him. I'm listening. He said, "Hey, I'm just." I said, "What you up? What you up to?" I'm watching a movie. "Oh, do you want me to call you back?" That's listening. I'm responding to. Maybe he wants to watch this movie. Maybe I called at a bad time. Maybe he just want to acknowledge I'm picking up because I don't want to ignore the call. In case there's an emergency or something. And that's feedback. But usually when we're in relationships, sometimes it's not about, especially with men, we feel it's not about us. It's about what you want at that particular time. You call it, and you just bypass what we say. You're not even listening. Hey, this not a good time, or I'm a little busy right now, and you just go right into the conversation like they haven't said anything. Like, well, no, that's not important. That women, if you're listening, that is a major pet peeve of men. That what they feel and how they feel at that particular moment is not important. It's all about you, and that's part of that power and control that we talked about earlier. They're going to control it no matter what, and you're really not in control because I can't tell you how many times I said, I'm a little busy right now, and they started talking. I pulled the phone away from my ear and just looked at the phone like, did she just hear what I just said? And she's just not listening. It's not about me anymore, and that's like a major kind of blow to the relationship where I get to a point. It's a moment of clarity. Like, okay, um, I'm not in control of this relationship, or this person feels like they can just override however I feel, whatever I want, and it doesn't matter. It's all about them, and that's a major, major, major turnoff.
Yeah. As I said earlier, man, listening is a huge part of communication.
Hmm.
And a lot of times people don't listen realistically because they don't care. They'll say they care, but they don't care. Because if you care, you would take the time to try to listen and understand. They don't listen because and they don't care because they're more self-involved with themselves and they're trying to get what they want. So they don't have the capacity to basically listen and try to understand. So, I go back to your phone call. When they call you, they care less what you're doing.
Yep.
They care less. They don't basically spend time on their script, what they're going to say, how they're going to say it. And you better now, don't even react. Don't even want you to react to it. They just want to basically, whatever they done pre-planned and done worked on, get unloaded on you. And it should hit you like a ton of bricks. It should drop you to your knees. And then they feel like everything's great. But it's not a point of basically, let me see how you feel. Let me listen, let me understand. Again, that goes back to growing. Communication is a great tool to use to grow any relationship. You listen, you understand, you learn more about the person, the soul you're dealing with. But when you make it about you, I got to say this, this got to be said, blah, 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 blah. And I'm supposed to just sit there and absorb it all like a sponge. You pull this in, pull this in, pull this in. But yet, if I start to speak, as you said earlier, pull one thing out that's not even pertinent to what I'm saying and try to make that the issue. How long is that going to last? How long is that going to grow? How long is that going to work? And that's not communication. That's not. It's not at all. I wanted to go into repair, Mr. DeMaurice, but I'm gonna shelf that for a little while because repair to me is really a big part of what we should kind of basically focus on sometimes. So I'm gonna save that for another time, and maybe next show, and we'll come back and we'll drop into that. If not, at some point I drop into it. I wanted to roll into a question, bro. If you had a question.
Yeah, man. I mentioned it to you about the soft guy era, the drizzle,
Oh
and
no,
we talked
man.
a little bit about it. And those of you don't know, is a young man. I don't know how long ago who decided, we're going to mirror back what women say to us, and to let them see how crazy it is, and what they kind of look like when they kind of do this to us. So it's this movement or trend called the soft guy era, and basically it came from as a spinoff of a lady who decided to tell women how to take advantage of men. We talked about control earlier, take advantage of men, and she every time she would make a statement, solidifying her point, she would go sprinkle, sprinkle. How to get this from a man, and he needs to pay for this, and sprinkle, sprinkle. And so the young man flipped it and says, that we're in our soft guy era. And so if a woman can't take you to a certain restaurant, they're just going to take you to the Cheesecake Factory. That was a big old uh, trending subject before. And she's just going to take you, who does she think I am? I'm worth more than Cheesecake Factory's drizzle. So if she can't take me to somewhere expensive restaurant, just say you broke. You just admit you broke. Just say you broke. Let's start off
Hmm.
like that. And so I wanted to know how you felt about that, because I sent you a few videos. I don't know if you watched them, but this drizzle and flipping it and mirroring it. Because the ironic thing about it is that women were really upset, but this was a conversation and an argument that they couldn't win, because men were just using the same thing they were doing and just mirroring it and putting it up as like, this is what you say to us. Your thoughts about
Yeah,
this?
yeah, man. They a lot of times they can't handle what they put out, boss. I did look at the videos you sent. They can't handle what they put out. They really can't. Which is kind of it's comical in a way, and it's sad because if you're giving something, you should be able to bring it back to you. But a lot of them, they can't handle it that way. They can't. They'll basically a lot of times, like I'll use the restaurant thing for a situation. They'll want to go to a specific restaurant and eat. I remember years ago, this lady said to me she wanted to go to an Italian restaurant. She heard about it, don't know
Mm.
nothing about it. So I said, you know what? I said, let's look up the menu. I said, we're gonna go there. Let's see what the menu got that we're gonna order. Look up the menu. She couldn't pronounce nothing on the menu, boss. Half the stuff she wouldn't eat. So my point is, you don't listen to some dumbasses that told this restaurant is good,
Mm.
and you expect me to take you there to make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, I should do that to you. Just listen to some of my friends talk about, guess what? Let's go alligator fishing. And then you take me go alligator fishing.
uh,
It's like it's nonsense in this sense. Nonsense. And I don't think they really understand what they bring is what you should be willing to bring back in. If you can't bring it back in, then why put it out there? In other words, there's nothing about you as a person, as a human, as a woman. Granted, men like to have sex, but there's nothing about you think that should be used to get something that you're not willing to bring back to yourself. Meaning that if you're asking me for something, I should be able to ask you for the same thing and get it back from you. And I can't, then don't ask. Don't suggest it. Don't ask. It's just that simple. But they think that they not that they think they know, they believe they've been taught in this world because you're pretty, you're attractive, you have what you have between your legs. Society, men would just fall over and just go goo goo gaga just to be with you at the possibility so you can get what you want. You can ring up the cash register. With some idiots, you can. There's some idiots out there, some guys out there that's going to fall for that, granted. But I don't think there's enough of them. But yeah, that's how I look at that, man. It's like it's just stupid upon stupid. And I like what he does because they need to see. And of course they're not going to handle it because you're pushing them right back in front of their face. They can't handle that. They just can't.
yeah, I remember an ex of mine. I was they said something. Sometimes women just to me just throw things out and with no thought. And this was a case in point. She said something, and I kind of stopped in my tracks, and I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" And she said, "No." She said, "No." I said, "You said such and such and such and such. Does that really make sense?" And she's like, "I didn't say that." I said, "You. That's exactly what you said." I said, "How do you
NASCAR.
know? How do you know when you said you didn't listen to what you just said? That's exactly what you said." And that's when the argument started. This is what you said. This is what I heard. So
Listen, real
it's
quick.
really what's that?
Listen, real quick. This is what I love. This is what I love. I love this right here. When you bring something up from the past, they don't remember you said what they said, but they can tell you that they didn't say it. How can you tell me you didn't say it? You don't remember what you said. Oh my goodness, man. Oh, well, I don't remember what I said. Well, you said it. No, I didn't. How can you say you said it if you don't
You
remember?
say you don't remember.
But you remember not saying it. Come on. Help me, help
Oh.
me, help me. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on.
Because I asked
Uh,
that question. I asked it on purpose. I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" No, I didn't hear what I just said. Well, how you not hear? Because I know when I speak, I can hear what I'm saying. If something doesn't come out right, I can retract and go, "You know what? That didn't come out right. Let me start over again." But she didn't even listen to what she was saying. So that's why I asked that first. I was like, "Well, you said such and such." No, I didn't say that. Wait a minute. You said you didn't listen to what you just said. So that means you didn't hear it or you weren't thinking about it. I'm bringing it to you. So it's like it's this constant kind of fight to be right, and without any you know accountability of what you say, what you're doing, and you expect us to kind of ride with it, and it gets to be childish at some particular point. It
whew.
really does, and so it's like this double standard of mirroring this thing and saying this is what you said and this is how it makes us feel. Can you deal with that or can you change it? And it's like, well, there were actual women who were getting upset about this stuff, and I'm like, why are you getting upset? These are your words. This is your actions. This is how you look. But instead of saying, you know what, that's really kind of messed up. We really need to change it. And I think it goes back to, I'm gonna say this and get off it. It goes back to, I know as young men, we were taught, we talked about our mothers. We were taught how to treat young ladies. We were taught how to treat women in relationships. Their relationships weren't always perfect, but they always gave us, even our fathers gave us, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to treat women, things of that sort. I don't think young ladies and females get that. They get what you need to get out of the relationship of a person and not taught to how to be in relationships with somebody else. They're not taught that. It's not the same teaching that we're getting to complement each other. It's just not. Over the years I've looked at it, it's just not. And that's why I try with females that I'm in encounter with and females in my family. This is the way this goes. This is what you haven't been taught. I'm trying to school you now so you can avoid all these situations later.
Yeah, my only question is how is that working for you when you're attempting to basically school them, which I think is great. How is that being received?
Yeah, yeah,
Now, how are they receiving it? Are they taking it in and using it, or are they kind of rebuking the fact that what you're saying doesn't make any sense?
right.
No, I'm
Yeah.
asking you, how do they respond to it? How do they respond?
Some of them, depending on the situation and what they're into. Some women will say, you know what, that's right, and maybe they're just saying it in my face. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't make sense. But some women are like, well, no, 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 such and such. He ought to be, and they're so so solid on that particular wrong way of doing it or not being taught doing it that they can't see it any other way. They cannot
Yeah.
see it any other way. And so because it's been ingrained, because we've been taught, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is how you act, this is how you pursue, this is this. I don't think women get that same conversation. It's about get what you can get, and then once you get all you can get, move on and get it somewhere else. And because women will get in relationships, and you think they're all in, and then what a difference a day makes. They don't feel that way the next day, and they're off somewhere else, and you're like, "What happened? I didn't see this coming." Is that they felt probably I've exhausted everything in this particular situation. Here's a new situation that's on the horizon that I can get more. And this is why sometimes they jump over and then realize, oh, this is what it's not what it's all cracked up to be. Then they try to jump back to get the old thing back, to get that the resources that they once got back. And some of us are fools enough to let them back in
Hmm. Yeah.
to let us to get used again. And I always say, if she leaves and go to somebody else, the door's closed. It doesn't open again. The vault's closed. It doesn't open. Don't bring her back because now she realized she hasn't gotten what she used to get from you with this other person, and this other person can't really kind of do what they need to do to keep her kind of there. Now she wants to come back like nothing's happened. Like nothing, they wiped the slate clean. Like I didn't hear what I just said. And oh, that's I didn't mean that. Oh, what I really meant was
Oh
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. What I really meant was, well, I thought you said. I
yeah,
didn't hear what
yeah.
you said. I thought you said. I thought you said. I thought you said. Man, we would do this forever, boss. Let's put the lid on this one. I love it, bro. I love it. Oh my! And I'll tell you something, man. No matter where you are, here's the funny. And a lot of things I turn into humor. I really do. And one of the funny things about this, no matter where you are, you're not alone. Whatever you're dealing with, you're not alone. You say to yourself, man, I got to be the only man in the world facing it. And you're not.
Mm-mm, no,
You're not,
no.
bro. Trust me, you're not. You can go here to Scotland, Poland. Jamaica, Germany, Taiwan, no matter where you go, you're going to face the same thing. It's like a natural thing that you're going to go up against. So never think it's just you or it's just that situation. It's just, it's the makeup, boss. It's the
It's
makeup.
a
Look, like,
it's a
remember back in the day, say it's the shoes money. It's the makeup, boss. It's the makeup.
it's a club and you ain't in it.
No, you're not in it, man. Not in it. You
George
can't get
Carlin
in.
said.
You can't get in. You may want to get out, but you can't get in. Hey, man, I appreciate you doing it. We'll get together next week. Once again, it's when Black Man Talk. Myself, Mr. DeMaurice this week. Mr. Charles celebrated a birthday. He had a milestone. Was a happy belated birthday to him. He should be back soon. And we'll get together soon. Continue to go strong. May God continue to bless you. And we'll catch up a little bit.